Welcome to Experience 48B, Meteor Example Form React. For this, we're going to see how to make a simple enhancement to the Meteor Example Form React so that you can feel very comfortable with creating forms, modifying forms, using forms in your future projects. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a field, a required field, called Software Engineering Instructor or Instructor, with two possible values, Philip Johnson or Cam Moore. When you're done, your landing page or your Create Student page will look like the example. So first off, I recommend that you familiarize yourself with the template. So you should take some time, first read the example form React homepage, go through, read it, take a look at what they have, what it provides, and then watch some of the videos. Watch the video on explaining it. It's about 35 minutes. It'll talk about all the kinds of things you need to know or should know about the project, about the example template, example form template. So to start, before you start your WAD, we're going to need to install or use the template and create your own private repo. So I'm going to open this in a new tab. I'm going to use the template, and I'm going to call it Meteor Form 314. 314. I want it to be private. Don't need to include the branches. I'm going to create the repository, and it will take a few seconds. And then I'm going to clone it to my laptop. Make sure it's going to the right place, and it is. Take a few seconds to download all the or clone all the files. Open it in IntelliJ. I'm on the main branch. That's great. I then want to cd into the app directory in my terminal. Here npm install. Again, takes a few minutes. npm run start. Again, we got the browser list issue. You can fix it, but then when you do a media reset, you're going to have to fix it again. So I am not too worried about that. Once you're sort of done developing, maybe you then want to run it so that you don't get that error message. We're going to look at it, and you can see we've got the Create Student in the home page, and we don't have that instructor field, the third field in that first row. So we're going to start modifying that. We want to make sure that ESLint is working, so it should be, we don't need to do anything because we've opened it. So let's start with pages not found. I need to set my node interpreter because I'm using NVM. And IntelliJ doesn't know about that. Got my red bar, got my red squiggly. If I save it, I should get my little red mark. Undo, save it, I get my green check mark. IntelliJ is working fine. If Meteor's running, we want to exit. And again, this is where we would exit. And if I had done the npx, I then do a Meteor reset to ensure that my database is empty and the project is reset. Run start. And we should get our browser list errors. And we're good to almost go. Go. Start my timer. Start my timer. Create a branch, add instructor 1. New branch. 1. Create the branch. We publish the branch so it's available on GitHub. We then want to add the field, but let's make sure that our IntelliJ, again, we've got this app Meteor, so we want to mark as excluded because we do not want to run that. We are on the add instructor 1 branch. Perfect. So now we can start working on add a new field to the student data schema called instructor. So where would the student data schema is? They're probably in the API, student data, the student data schema. But what I'm going to do is add a field to the student data values called instructors. It's an array of Philip Johnson and Cam Moore. Again, notice ESLint is okay. So now we want to add it to the student data schema, has a new field called, let's put it right here, instructor. It's of type string. It's not optional, it's required, but it has allowed values of student data values dot instructors. So those are the two possible choices for the instructor field. So it's either Philip Johnson or it's Cam Moore. By saying that the allowed values means it's got to be those. So the schema will enforce it. So if you type something else in there, it's not going to do it. So I've got that. I have two values, Philip Johnson and Cam Moore. I want to add the instructor field and its required values to the student form schema. So that would be in the pages create student, I believe. Well, no, there's the student form schema. So let's go Command B or Control B. So here's our schema, the student form schema. And again, we want to say that it has an instructor. Let's make it I need the comma, label. The label's instructor. Type the string. The allowed values is data values instructors. Notice we as data values, so we're going to refer it as data values in here. Data values dot instructors. Oh, I need my colon. So that's updated the student form schema so that we now have name, email, bio, instructor, hobbies, level, GPA, major, and enrolled, which is a date. So we've done that. The default value will be Philip Johnson. Default value is data values dot instructors sub 0. So that's Philip Johnson. Because Philip generally teaches more sections than I do, although this semester I'm teaching both sections and Philip's on sabbatical. So now we need to update the create student form to display the instructor fields. So let's go to the create student. We've got the form schema from student form info. We've got student data, so we're all good with there. So now let's go and update our field. So I'm just going to do Command D. It's not a text field. It is a select field. Its name is instructor. We want to show inline error, and we want to say choose one. Very similar to the select field here, where we have the name is the name for in the schema, show inline error, so we want to see an error. We're not supplying any help instructions. We want to save this. We've got our refreshed. So let's see what we get. Did we get it? So here's my instructor field. Cam Moore, Philip Johnson by default. Now my placeholder is not being shown because we set up this default value. And so if I delete this, let's see, reload, we get to choose one. So the default value will override that. So we could either have the default, set the default value, and you can see that when we set the default value, it automatically fills in the thing, and you can see we could choose. So if we don't set that default value, then we will use the placeholder. But since it has a default value, we're not using the placeholder. So we updated the form. When done, the page should look like it does. We need to update the submit function to pull in the instructor field. So the submit needs to take the data, but now we have instructor, and we need to add the instructor to the insert. So that's going to insert into the student data collection. Now, we need to, well, no, we don't, let's just want to see this. So the student data collection is just a Mongo collection, but we haven't applied a schema to it. So the documents in it can be almost anything we want. So now let's see, let's create a student whose name is Philip, his email is Johnson. So your name is Philip, email is Johnson, instructor is Philip Johnson. Well, I'm gonna make a Cam Moore. Bio is Foo. Freshman, sure. GPA 4.0, we're great. Date enrolled, this is a date field, so I can choose it. Hobbies are optional, but I need to choose a major. Let's be physics, just for fun. And we submit it. We were successful. And now we want to see if we got that thing into this collection. So let's open a shell. This is not the right place. So 314 CD. No, what was it? What was it called? Meteor form 314. 314 app. So let's do Meteor Mongo. We show the collections. And we've got our student data collection. We have some enrollment data collection. We have some roles assignment, and users. So db.student, and you can hit tab, get completion. And we want to say find. So that's going to return all the documents in the student data collection. We have one document, name Philip, email Johnson, bio Fu, level freshman, GPA 4, major in physics, and the instructor is Cam Moore. So we successfully pushed all those items into the collection. The other way to do it is to run Studio 3T, which I have running. I'm going to need to disconnect from this other collection. No, I don't want any of this stuff. And I want to connect to Meteor Mongo, which is running, that's running on the local host in 3001. Meteor, collections, student data. And I have my one record with Philip Johnson Fu, freshman 4, physics Cam Moore. So you could either do it using Studio 3T, which has a free version, very powerful, or if you don't want to download and deal with all the Studio 3T, you can just use Meteor Mongo. The beauty of Studio 3T is that it allows you to connect to other machines, and you can, if you've got the right permissions, you can connect to other machines. So let's disconnect. And we'll close that, and we'll quit to disconnect. Now that submission is working, we're going to update edit student to support the instructor field. Edit student. So we're still getting the schema from the student format. So it has the instructor. We're going to student data update. We're going to set some of these, but so we're going to have to include the instructor in here. And the instructor here. So the data is what the form gives us back. So it's got all the fields in it. And now this is too long. So what we want to do is what now what? Come on, why are you mad? Oh, typo. Okay, so we're good. So again, pull the instructor out of the form submission. Make sure we update the instructor if it changes. And then we update that. So now we need to update our form to add the instructor field. So we want So now it's a select field. Its name is instructor. Placeholder, we don't need one, and it's not disabled, so we can change the instructor. And the rest is the same. The form has an on submit data. We submit the data, and the model is model. So this is our submit. We're given the data. Save it. Go over here. We want to edit this data. And we've added the instructor field, so I can change it to Philip Johnson. Change majors to computer science. Add paddling as a hobby. Notice the date field in this form has the date time local, whereas in the create student, the date field has just type date. So the date field allows you to switch between a date and time or just a date. Then we update. Okay, let's Meteor Mongo. So we've got the Philip Johnson, bio is food, level still free PO. Hobbies are now paddling. The instructor is now Philip Johnson, where it used to be Cam Moore. Major is changed to computer science, so we are successfully updating our document. Okay, so now as a last step, we want to kill this. Vim run lint. And we're good to go. Stop my timer. Pause. Commit you and push your branch. Instructor field in 17 minutes. In 17 minutes. Commit, push origin. Okay, so now if you want to practice this again, you can exit Meteor, which we're not in, switch back to the main branch, which reverts all changes to the main because we haven't merged our branch into main. Invoke the Meteor reset to clear out the database, start again, and work on a different branch. I hope that explains briefly how forms work and how you apply schemas to the form to add fields, and then you just select the type of field and the name in the schema. And allowed values allows you to say you have to choose valid values, and if you just had a text field there and you type something else, the form would say it's an illegal value. Thank you very much for your attention.